what is your take on the responsibility of these grown women to say, wow, this guy's not marrying me. There's literally like 20 other 25-year-old chicks in this like dorm thing with me. How come I don't leave? Like, how come they didn't leave right away? Like, isn't that pretty obvious that he's not going to literally marry all 30 of these chicks at the same time?
Possibly, yeah.
So possibly Destiny. Are you kidding me? Come on, you're saying that they didn't notice that it was clearly a lie
I'm saying that
right
the
away,
women
they
aren't on
chose to-
trial for being stupid, so I really don't care if they're stupid. They probably are stupid. Or most people that fall for
Brother.
scams, when people call them on the phone and ask them for Microsoft payment cards or whatever, are also generally pretty dumb. But an old person being stupid and falling for a scammer doesn't make the scammer not a scammer, so I'm not really concerned with that.
Okay, we're gonna upgrade the IQ from senile old person, i.e. Joe Biden, to sentient 100 IQ Romanian 25-year-old chick. I think that she, and you already conceded, is probably smart enough to say, you know what, this guy probably lied about the whole lover boy thing, but he's gonna have sex with me once a week and he'll pimp me out and I'll cam girl, and that's okay. You're saying that what? That these girls are not boneheaded? I think you were conceding that they are, right?
Well, now you're alleging a conspiracy on their part. Do you have any evidence of that? That they were knowingly entering an illegal deal with the attempts to frame them later or to make money off of them attempting to traffic them?
No, what I am saying is that, yeah, if they were lied to at the beginning, that is immoral on Andrew's part. What I am saying, though, is that they could have left at any point the Raptor, and any reasonable person would have. I would have. And so that is to say that, you know what, if you're stuck in a dormitory with all these different girls that are getting prostituted, and women are smart, they know who the bottom bitch is, they know who they're getting whippings from. Clearly, Andrew Tate has some tard wranglers that are involved, like Ghislaine Maxwell's of his movement, and they still chose to be in there. So how come they didn't want to do that? What is your point here?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't really thought much about the victim's state of mind. I don't really care. It's not really relevant to the charges. There's a million questions we could ask about their behavior. Why did you go to another country? Why did you let somebody do OnlyFans with you? Why, I don't know. There's a million things you could theoretically ask them. But again, they're not on trial, so I'm not really as interested in that. And I haven't seen any evidence one way or another about their state of mind.
Yeah. Okay. So from my understanding, there is this whole dynamic of the rape situation. Now, okay, listen. There's a whole grape fruit incident here, and what I wanted to point out is that, you know, how much proof is there really that he forced himself on anybody? Now, it seems to me as if this is a way bigger deal than the sex trafficking. So what are the charges in respect to that? I don't know what they would be necessarily. So it seems to me as if, but
Well, I can
actually,
read them if you want. Yeah.
wait, can I get the question repeated? Okay, great. So basically, I honestly think that with Andrew Tate, it's very clear to point out that when you're looking at the face of this whole narrative I'm spinning here, I think that there's ostensibly nobody more prosecuted than Andrew, but even more than that, that when we're conspiring this whole image and this web of like, oh my God, they're conspiring to do rape things to women, I just think that that's bald-faced not even true. And moreover, when we're talking about Andrew, you know, why does he need to do these things to women, frankly? Like, I'm pretty sure there's enough whores to go around that he could do BDSM or whatever kink, like sort of queer stuff he wants to do there. So it seems pretty obvious to me that it doesn't seem like a good motivation to take over these women sexually and to abuse them in that sense, or even the people around him that we don't know their names of. Moreover, again, what does it say about these women that don't freaking leave? Like, assuming he didn't take their passport in all these cases, why aren't they going? If he's taking abuse of them, then they can leave. And you could say, well, that's technically illegal, bro, but it's also a morality issue. Like, hey, you know, you're getting abused, leave. If he's punching you, move away, right? Like, come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, people stay in abusive relationships. Like, even using that phrase, like, if somebody's hitting you, leave. If somebody's hitting you and you don't leave, it doesn't make the relationship not abusive. So it's just not even an argument in terms of like, why do wealthy people, you know, rape non-wealthy people? I mean, like, I'm sure Epstein could have found some 14-year-olds that were into him. Does that mean that he wasn't a child rapist? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what that argument is. It's not even an argument. It's just like a random musing that doesn't make any sense and doesn't map onto anything that we know that's actually happened in the real world. As for whether we know that rapes did or didn't happen, I mean, the ones listed in the indictments have witnesses literally listed. So I think we just have to see how that plays out in court, although I would be astounded that somebody could confidently assert that there's no way that it happened when two witnesses are literally listed on the first rape charge for Andrew Tate.
Right. So here's the thing. And you know what's very odd to me, Destiny, is that clearly there's subpoenas showing in detail how they lied and were being facetious about their love for these women and how they were going to marry them in Romania, and how when they got there that there was all these other women at the same time. Okay, coincidence. Anyway, so you're mentioning all these WhatsApp group chats, thousands of messages. And how is it that they didn't mention, bro, I just anally did this, bro, I didn't, like, why would they not brag about that in the text if they're already admitting to illegal shit on the record on these WhatsApp messages?
Are you confident that they didn't do that?
Well, I'm pretty sure, I'm confident that if you've been debating this long on the internet, that you would have brought up a really good salient point with evidence, because clearly you would know that.
Well, I'm just going by what's listed in the indictments, but I mean, are you saying that, like, you don't? I just want to hear you say this on the record, because you're making it sound like you've read through all the text. I haven't. It's 360 pages for this indictment. I haven't read through every single text message, but you're telling me that you're confident that within these text messages they don't brag about raping or fucking these girls against their will ever?
No, I've read like 5 of those pages of the text, and so far I've not encountered that, and I was assuming that you would have at this point, and it seems like you haven't. And I just think that, generally speaking, when they were talking about the worst stuff, and if you watch the Willie Mack video and other like documentary like sort of things, you'll notice that what they detail is something about how they got a boob job on a girl and they like ripped the stitches off, or got a girl to do it, not that they actually did it themselves. There's another point that a year ago, when Andrew was viral in the first place in the summer of 22, they brought up that he like did BDSM with a girl, but then the girl later admitted that it was okay. So it seems to me as if there's really no tangible evidence of the rape. And in regards to the 2 witnesses, what were their accounts in your recounting that would seem to be definitive proof, or at least enough to really categorize him as a assaulter of women?
I don't think that their full accounts are listed in the indictment, their exact statements, so I'm not sure. But what about the one text message from Andrew Tate where he literally, this is a WhatsApp one, this is a while ago, where he literally WhatsApped that woman. This might have been, he said it. I think we get the audio leaks of this where he said, "I loved raping you."
What? Well, I mean, if he said that to a girl, then clearly that is like sarcasm or something.
Okay, so then initially you set the threshold as, if they did this, wouldn't they have said it in a text message? And I specifically remember hearing a voice message where he did say this, and now you're saying he was joking. So it sounds like there's no evidence I could provide you where it would meet your threshold. So then I don't know why you asked me for evidence at all.
I don't. What's the definition of sex traffic? I don't. I just
Here's
would think,
Natalia.
because here's. I would just. This is just. Wait, wait, wait. I would just think that it was that you aren't free to go. That's what I thought. Right. I thought it's only sex trafficking if they're underage or they can't leave. That's what I thought.
You know you don't have to physically lock someone up for it to be coercion. Tell me you know that. Tell me you're not that ignorant to manipulation techniques, psychology, and how to control someone. You are not that stupid. What you, in all your clumsy ignorance, have just decided isn't that bad or really a problem is, well, what everyone's been talking about at the moment, the lover boy method. And again, let's leave, I know everyone's been talking about this in relation to him, let's leave Tate to the side here. Just brush him aside for a minute. For now, I'm not saying this is what he did. We can leave that. I'm just more concerned with your views on this in general.
I don't know. I don't study sex trafficking. Okay. It's not my area of expertise. But my question is, what is incorrect about that statement? Do you not think the women should take accountability for the choices that they made?
They should. But that's besides the point.
You can take accountability. I'm not asking about what the punishment should be for the women. They probably been punished enough. I imagine if they worked and had money stolen from them.
Mm-hmm.
What we're talking about was what Andrew Tate did, which is sex trafficking, right? There are probably women that make bad decisions.
Allegedly.
That's what he's charged with. That's what he's charged with.
Allegedly.
Why is it wrong if they freely chose to do it?
Why is it wrong if I get somebody in a relationship with me and then I'm able to flip that into them working as a prostitute for me?
You freely chose to do it. I just think there's nobody. I couldn't date a single guy that could make me want to do that.
That's great for you, but this isn't about you. This story isn't about you.
So from what I understand, you seem to not think that the lover boy method is real or effective as a form of coercion or mental abuse because, oh, you wouldn't do it. You don't think it's wrong because you just say no and that's the end of it. Well, that's decided then. Pearl would say no. What have they got him in Romanian jail for? Pearl would just say no. Have you told someone this, Pearl? This could be essential in clearing his name.
There's nobody. I couldn't date a single guy that could make me want to do that.
That's great for you, but this isn't about you. This story isn't about you.
Pearl, you fucking jellyfish. Do you know what kind of girls very rarely get targeted by sex traffickers? Well-educated, middle-class girls from stable, loving families. Girls like us, in other words. I agree with you. I would also say no. If my boyfriend told me to do camgirl work, I would tell him exactly where he could stick his camera and how far up there, and then I would skip away into the sunset happy to be rid of a fucking loser. But what I would do is really not the point. I do appreciate Destiny calling you out for this not being about you. Because yeah, your entitlement is showing this isn't about you. So we're going to go on a little detour for a moment, and we're going to go on a little detour and talk about the grooming gang scandals in the UK. So I know I mentioned this several times, and it just seems to keep coming up. So when the news of this broke, I was about 14 or 15, and at the time I remember reading about one of the victims, and this broke my heart. So she was a girl who'd been targeted around the age I was at the time, and this story has stuck with me for years. We were both girls, same age, lived in the same part of the country, but I'd grown up with an abundance of love and protection, and she'd grown up starving for it. So this girl had been in and out of care, didn't really have anyone to look out for her or give a shit where she was or what was happening to her, and not only did she not have that, but she'd never had that. She felt worthless, abandoned, and totally alone in the world, hopeless and invisible and vulnerable. And then along comes this guy, older, more sophisticated, who's paying her attention. He's interested, he's sweet, he buys her things, gets her presents. No one had ever cared enough to buy her presents before, not ever. He tells her she's beautiful, that she's unique. He wants to know all about her, makes her feel special, seen, cared for. He cares where she is, what she's doing. He makes her feel safe. Like there is someone who will look out for her and protect her and make the world a little less dark and a little less terrifying. She said it was the first time anyone had ever told her they loved her. It must have seemed like a fairy tale, abandoned, alone, afraid, uncared for, unloved. And then along comes Prince Charming to rescue you like all the stories promised you would happen. He was her saviour, her knight in shining armour. He dangled the promise of love above her head, and when she couldn't be more infatuated with him or willing to do what he said, that was when he started pimping her out to be abused by other men. That's when the threats and the exploitation started. That's when the only person in the world who ever made her feel like she mattered proved to her what she'd believed about herself all along. She was disposable and unlovable and alone. And all because she dared to hope that this was someone, finally, who cared. Who can blame her for not wanting that to slip through her fingers? Was that wrong of her? Does that make her stupid or naive? Was she an idiot for not knowing what real love looked like? Was she stupid for wanting to just matter to someone? Was she a moron for not running at the first red flag? That's why the lover boy strategy is so wrong. That is why. Because that is what it plays on. That is what it does. It plays on a need to be loved. It intentionally and calculatingly preys on a need to be loved. It wouldn't work otherwise. It pulls on a wound. Of course it's fucked up. Of course using that as a form of deceit is fucking reprehensible. And that's why it's such a serious accusation. Promising love and delivering exploitation. It's despicable. Yes, in the case I mentioned, we're talking about an underage girl, but do we really think that a young woman couldn't have similar emotions used against her in a similar way? Are we really going to pretend that couldn't happen? Really?
Why is it wrong if they freely chose to do it?
Why is it wrong if I get somebody in a relationship with me and then I'm able to flip that into them working as a prostitute for me?
You freely chose to do it.
Is it only wrong if they're under 18 or chained up? Otherwise, any kind of manipulation goes, and if they didn't put up enough protest, then it's no harm, no foul. It is wrong, and everyone knows it's wrong, and the reason you know it's wrong is because in that story I just told of that underage girl, part of the reason of why it was wrong was because she was underage, and part of the reason why it was wrong is also because of the lies and the deceit and the manipulation, and the using someone's own vulnerability against them. And if you tell me that's not also partly why that was wrong, and it was just that she was underage, if it's not also that, then you are lying and I don't believe you. Yes, it's wrong because she was underage and because of what he did. That's wrong in and of itself also. So in one of my last videos, I read a message that I got from a young girl who had been abused by her father. So she was responding to me saying in a video that I didn't understand the appeal of bad boys, that I didn't get why you'd want to be with someone who didn't care about you, and all of that. And this girl explained how that feels. She said that when you've grown up not only with an absent father, but an abusive one, you feel like you don't matter, like you don't deserve to be treated well. She told me how scared she is of ending up with a man like her father because she can't tell the difference between good men and bad men. She actually said she struggled to understand the concept of what a good man is. She doesn't know what that looks like. What kind of girls and young women do we think the Loverboy method is most effective on, Pearl? Do we think it's girls like us? Girls like me and you, who grew up in large families, with a massive support system, with siblings who were always there if we needed them, enough siblings to never feel alone, with parents who loved us and made us feel safe and protected, with good fathers who showed us what positive masculinity looked like. Do we think the girls who grew up feeling valuable and cherished would be more likely to spot and recognise fake affection? Do we think we'd have people around us watching out for us, protecting us, and nudging us away from going down a bad path? A safety net? Do we think that we wouldn't have that same need for affection because all we have to do is go home and we'd be drowning in it the moment we walk through the door? Do we think that we'd find it easier to walk away from a man who treated us badly because we know that love is not a scarce resource and so we can't be as easily threatened with it going away? Do we think we'd be less likely to do anything to please? I think we would. The thing is, you agree with me. I know you do. You talk all the time about how selfish you think it is for a woman to break up her family, even if her husband cheats, because it's bad for the kids and it's not about you anymore. And you say that because you understand the value of what you had, how much of a blessing it is. You know how much more of an advantage it gives you if you come from a loving and stable two-parent household. You know that. Yes, the Loverboy method won't work on all girls, Pearl. But those it has the highest chance of working on are the most vulnerable. And it's not because they're stupid or should have known better. It's because they're desperate for whatever reason. Desperate for love, for affection, for security, for safety, for someone to care. I would not watch a starving man gorge himself on rotten meat and wonder why he didn't refuse it. If you doubt the effectiveness and manipulation inherent in that technique, then why do so many sex traffickers do it?
I just don't, I'm sorry, if I'm thinking, okay, I'm putting myself in these girls' shoes, I get a boyfriend, right? And the boyfriend convinces me to do cam work. That was my decision.
That's great that you think that. That's cool.
Personal decisions, personal responsibility.
That's great that you think that.
I'm just tired of, like, we're going to blame the men for your poor decision. You picked to do it. I'm putting myself in these girls' shoes.
You didn't put yourself in their place. You absolutely did not put yourself in their place. You made no attempt to put yourself in their place. And what's more, you don't even know what their place is because you say you know nothing about sex trafficking. What scenario are you imagining here, precisely? You're dating a guy, he casually floats the idea of you doing cam work and you say no? Is that what you're thinking? Is that seriously what you think people are accusing Andrew Tate of? Is that why you think these claims against him aren't a big deal? Is that how you think manipulation and psychological control works?
That's great.
That to me is not sex trafficking.
That's fine.
Because I agree with Pearl. These women knew what they were doing. They knew what they were signing up for. They were free to leave. He wasn't holding their passports. But if he was skimming money off the top with taxes, that's what they'll get.
So these are the two stages, and I agree that that's what you're going to say, because I know that's what all the Tate fans are going to say. First, they're going to say he didn't do it, and then when they said he did do it, and it's obviously clearly sex trafficking, then it's going to be, oh, okay, well, sure, he's sex trafficking, but it's okay. That's not even like real sex trafficking, or who cares about sex trafficking? They chose to go to another country where they didn't speak the language. He was stealing money from them, and they were locked in for the first time ever doing sex work.